This video will introduce you to using keywords and subject headings in research. You will learn the difference between them, what advantages they provide, and how to use them together in an effective search strategy. We'll start with keywords. Simply put, keywords are just words that you, the user, think of when trying to describe an information need. If you're looking for information on knitting, then knitting might be a keyword you would search. You could also use fiber arts or crafts as part of that search. What do keywords do? They show up in an item record, making them one of the results a catalog, database, or search engine displays at the end of a search. Keywords are not standardized in any way. Another way to talk about keyword searching is full text searching. Searching keywords looks in nearly any part of an item record, from the title to the author to the publisher to the abstract, for the words you have chosen. Sometimes this is very useful, but other times it can create false positives by pulling keywords from unhelpful parts of the item record. This brings us to our next question. What is a subject heading? In contrast to a keyword, a subject heading is standardized. It is a term assigned by a catalog or database as specifically describing the contents of the source. Subject headings can be searched specifically by telling the database or catalog that that is where you want to look. When you do a keyword search, you may choose terms that are already subject headings, and these items will be retrieved because a keyword or full text search can also look in the subject heading field. Paying attention to what keywords are also subject headings will help you think about how to describe your information need and what terms can best help you find what you're looking for. Because subject headings are standardized, they exist in a list that you can browse. Hold on to this idea as we progress through this tutorial. Why might browsing subject headings be useful? Let's talk a little more about controlled vocabularies. They are controlled because each term has been placed on a list on purpose to be used to describe a very specific concept and have very specific definitions. Terms from a controlled vocabulary, when used in a database or catalog, are meant to be used consistently so that a searcher can rely on always getting expected results when using them. For example, if one were to search Amazon.com for window dressings, they would not expect to see rugs in the results list. The term window dressings means one thing and should always be assigned to terms that match its definition. This gives users confidence when using a service like Amazon.com. The same is meant to happen with catalogs and databases. Library of Congress subject headings is the most common controlled vocabulary you will encounter when doing library research, but a dictionary or thesaurus is also a controlled vocabulary. Medical subject headings, or MESH, is another controlled vocabulary that is widely used in libraries. Now that we have an idea of what keywords are, why use them? The most obvious reason is that you don't know any standard terms like a subject heading to use. If you're just beginning, you might have some general topic knowledge to go on from reading an encyclopedia or other reference source. From this knowledge, you would try to pick terms that concisely describe your need. Keywords can be used in tandem with subject headings to help you focus and deepen your search. We'll discuss this more later. If keywords are for beginning research, subject headings come in handy when you have a better grasp on your subject and its jargon. Jargon is made up of words commonly used within a discipline that practitioners or experts know, but those outside the discipline usually wouldn't. One common way to choose a subject heading is after a keyword search, when you found a promising source, to examine the subject headings assigned to that source. Subject headings can be somewhat broad, however, so once you identify a useful subject heading for your topic, it can be helpful to use the subject heading combined with a keyword or two that is even more specific. Use a Boolean AND operator between subject heading and keyword. This will look for the keyword only within sources that are under your chosen subject. Let's go through a typical search pattern for a college-level researcher. First, think. This is the most important part of researching. Really think about what it is you want to find and how you would describe it to a person who had no idea what you were looking for. Write down the terms you think of that describe your topic, and its broader and narrower aspects. Take a look in a dictionary and thesaurus to find more words that are like those you have chosen. Remember, different people have different words they're used to using. Be prepared to try more than one keyword for the same topic. Try a search. If one keyword doesn't return very many results, try putting OR operators between two or more keywords that are close in meaning. For example, if your topic is global warming, you might come up with a search string that looks like global warming, or climate change, or atmospheric temperature, or greenhouse effect. Remember, the OR means that at least one of the terms has to be in a source to retrieve it, not all of them. This opens up your search to catch a wider net and give you more options. Now, let's talk about using related terms. These are not synonyms, but instead terms that fall within the same area of knowledge as your original terms. One of the biggest reasons to compile a related terms list is that your original list just isn't returning anything of use. Sometimes it just happens that there is no research using the terms you thought up, whether or not research in the subject area itself exists. And sometimes even that doesn't exist. Research follows its own particular paths, determined by scholars who are driven by the history of their discipline to explore areas that seem important to them. Research is not made to order. For example, the search string used above to find research about climate change might not have worked. In this case, think about terms that fall in a broader area of thought, that have something to do with a topic, but aren't it exactly. Pollution might be a useful related term. Climate denial is another. Climatology or environment are also good related terms. Using these in a Boolean OR search can be another step towards finding the sources you need. Using subject headings is a sign that you're increasing your expertise as a researcher. The important part is to remember that none of these sources exists in a vacuum. They're all part of a circle of research that includes basic reference sources, popular sources, academic sources, and everything in between. Don't go into a research quest blind. Take advantage of reference sources, textbooks, anything that will help you navigate the sometimes choppy waters of databases. Encyclopedias and books on a topic will give you a better idea of what to look for when searching for articles. Now, remember when you were asked why you might want to use a controlled vocabulary? Well, it turns out that library catalogs and many databases give you access to the subject list they use to organize collections. That means you can go directly to the list and browse or search for controlled vocabulary to describe your topic. Often, these lists will recommend terms to use based on keywords you give it as well. Always make use of all the tools at your disposal when searching for information. Don't be afraid to explore, make mistakes, and try something new. In review, keywords are where you start, helping you to find your first few sources or a subject heading that'll point you in the right direction. Subject headings organize sources so you can get down to business faster once you find one that is right for your research topic. Next, take a brief quiz to confirm your knowledge and get researching.